All right, Joe D, it is my absolute pleasure to have you today as our Power 30 guest. You are usually the interviewer, and there's nobody who can do it as well as you, so I'm just going to go ahead and get that out of the way right now. But it is my pleasure to have you as our guest, and I'm actually really looking forward to this topic today. I think it's a really important topic, and obviously right now it's important for us because of the things that we're dealing with now. But today we're going to talk about the topic is coming out of crisis, and basically how to succeed and thrive in a really unique or a really tough marketplace or really tough market conditions. And this will apply to all sorts of different situations, not just what we're feeling today. So we've talked in advance about a couple of things, and let's go ahead and start with the number one topic, which is it's big in this group, and can't wait to hear your thoughts on it, is your mindset in those times.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that obviously 26 years in the industry, and certainly, going back the last decade, just a little over, change is something that absolutely has taken the forefront as the number one. So prior to the collapse of the market, 08, 09, there was a lot of changes that happened. 08, 09 happened, you had to adapt. Then once you figured that game out, it changed again. So, it was REOs, then it was short sales, then short sales back to traditional clients, and da-da-da-da. So the one thing that I'm real clear on is a change is an absolute constant. But what we have to get clear on is be very specific in our mindset and what we're willing or not willing to do. And I was thinking about this, preparing for this call. And one of the things that I love about the game of golf is you get direct feedback in the game of golf from what you're thinking. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. This weekend, I was playing on Saturday, and I'm in the second hole. I'm in the bunker short of the green. And I'm normally phenomenal in the bunker. Like, that part of my game is really strong. And for those who don't know what a bunker is, it's a hole filled with sand. That's a little harder to get the ball to move. So in the middle of my backswing, as I'm coming forward to hit the ball, I get a thought in my mind: what if I don't make good contact and leave this in the bunker? Lo and behold, as I follow through, I leave the ball in the bunker. And as I step out, I start laughing. And everybody's like, it happens to everybody. I go, no, it was my mind. My mind went there first. And I created the outcome that I didn't want. And so when we talk about mindset, I will tell you that the number one killer in this industry that I watch is people will start thinking about what they don't want while they're doing an activity they're trying to create opportunities on. So if you're on an appointment or you're on the phone trying to schedule an appointment, you will make up resistance in your mind about what's going to occur. And if you've been in sales any length of time, you've had an appointment on like a Thursday or Friday evening, and you were like, oh man, I really don't want to go on that. And within a short period of time, that appointment cancels. Oh my gosh. Yay. Wait a minute. What did I just root for? Right? So coming into COVID, I will tell you, I got super laser clear. I said to Shannon, I said to Lori, and Becky, and I said, listen, my focus is 2 to 3 sales every week, period. That's all I'm going to focus on. Everything else to me is what I've got to do, but every single week, 2 to 3 sales. The entire time, 2 to 3 sales every single week. I think we calculated it was 7.4 million in new deals that I put together during that time. And there wasn't any multi-million-dollar deals in there to make it bigger, right? But what it was blinders on, focus, create the results I want to create.
Yeah. So I've noticed also in my career that it's clear that when somebody has the right mindset, or when there's one thing about putting a goal down, but when you put your mind towards that, right, where that's going to happen, then it really does have a powerful effect. And it's almost like just that alone will make it happen. You can will it to happen. But there's also another effect to that, I think, that is that when you have the right mindset, then all of the things that you do are focused on that same mindset. All of the things that you tell yourself, all of the activities that you do, everything that you think about doing that day, that you plan about doing that day, are consistent with that. And there's something that's very powerful around that as well. Do you have any more thoughts on that topic?
No, I think you're hitting the nail right on the head. I think what happens is once you commit, providence will occur, right? Meaning the universe will line up everything to create that outcome. But until you're fully committed, any distraction, any hurdle, any speed bump, anything that can take your attention can and will do that. And there's a big difference between saying, I want to get 2 sales this week. I want to get 3 sales this week and be all like, yeah, rah, rah, let's do it. Versus, no, that's what I'm doing. So for me, like, I'd get 2 to 3 sales in during the week and I'd start looking and going, what do I need to do to get 2 to 3 more? I need to get a price reduction on this one. I've got this seller that I'm talking to is 3 to 4 weeks out. I've got to get them to do it sooner, right? So everything starts lining up.
So I'm big into this concept of self-deceit. Okay. And this mindset is, to the realist, and I'll tell you this because I feel this sometimes in myself, this mindset to the realist is, well, aren't I just kidding myself? You know, aren't I just, like, isn't it really a certain way, but I'm trying to be a positive person, and so I'm really just lying to myself? What would be your counter argument to that?
Well, I would say we're telling stories to ourselves, and I don't like to use the word lie in this perspective, but I get what you're saying. We're making up shit all the time. Like, we make up how we feel. Like, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, therefore I've decided I'm going to be tired and sluggish and today is going to be a challenge. Where the reality is, it's irrelevant. Like, you may feel it, but you have all the energy inside of you that you need. And it's about calling forward what you need to create the outcome that you want. And so, yeah, I know, like, looking at affirmations, people like, you know, a simple one, I am healthy. Well, maybe you're not now, but you're attempting to get that way. But once you commit and you have the belief, you start looking for small evidence that makes what you're saying true. So maybe I am healthy. Now, every time I eat out, I select healthy food. You start getting that mindset, then you order a salad. Now you've got a positive reinforcement. So what I think people do is they overarch, like, well, I'm not really that because I haven't been that up to this point. Well, you can declare today that it's going to be different and operate from that different declaration from here forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you 100% on those things. I think that that's what differentiates the people who do have a good mindset versus those who are always kind of in their own way and they want to, like, up here, they want to, but kind of like in their whole nervous system, there's something in the way. And so I think you're right. If you don't have to make it all or nothing, but this is where I'm going, in your mindset, it's very powerful.
So I talk about this quite regularly. You know, what makes a great NBA 3-point shooter? It's typically a short memory.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and I will tell you, this is, I don't know where this came from, but at some point in my life, I adopted this. I'm easily impressed with myself. I'm not saying that from an egotistical standpoint. Like, if you and I were playing horse and I hit a shot, it doesn't matter if you hit it or not, right? I will be like, yeah, that's right, I'm the man, right? If I have a great phone call with somebody, I'm like, yes, that was a great phone call. Like, so for whatever reason, I decided at some point early in my career, and I probably just from watching the successful agents versus the agents who struggled. The agents who struggled are constantly dealing with problems. They talked about problems. They would They would relive the bad deal, the bad negotiation, the bad objection that they didn't handle through everybody in the office. I would have that same outcome, and I'd be like, all right, fuck it. I screwed that up. I'm moving on. But what I would remember is the one guy who, when I knocked on the door, was ready to close the door, and I got him to talk for a minute. Yeah. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, so this is working. So I would say for mindset, you want to find the small evidence that it's working in your favor versus the small evidence that it'll never work.
Okay, excellent. So let's go to the next subject that's related to this. And we kind of tried to touch on this just a little bit. Rituals and daily habits.
You are what you do consistently, right? The Mike Ferry was one of my early mentors in my career, and like him or hate him, irrelevant. The point being is that he produces some really big industry, high producing agents. He has a system that people follow, and the one thing that I take away from his methodology is you are what your habits are. You are what your routines are. If you have a habit of getting up early, of taking care of your mind and body, getting yourself right, and then speaking to a whole bunch of people. Let me make this clear. Real estate is a contact sport. You have to be in contact with people every day. And I had this conversation with Lori on our team last year. Because once again, I put the blinders on, turned it on, and was crushing it for a couple months in a row. And I said to her, I go, why is my production so much more than anybody else that's around us? And she says, you talk to more people than anybody around here. And she's not in the industry. She's my operations manager. She runs the business side, but it was clear as day to her. And so I always look at from a habit and a ritual, like what's your commitment to how many people you're speaking to a day?
Yeah. So a lot of the people who are in synergy with us asked us for this interview with you. And the reason is because we saw the success that you've been having while everybody else has been kind of paralyzed by COVID-19. So what specifically can you share with us did you do? Because, you've talked about that focus, and it's clear you've been focused on it, and it's clear that the results have come. What specifically did you do in order to have those contacts during COVID-19?
So I've gotten in a habit that this is just the way I operate, like daily. It's not like anything different, but it was, again, very focused. So what I started looking at is who are the people that I should be speaking to about what's going on in the marketplace. And ironically enough, as a result, I just took a listing on Friday from a client that I had no idea that they were moving, but I knew they'd been in their home for 4 years. I knew they had money. And I knew if anybody was going to do anything, it's going to be people like that. The broke people are going to be tough to work with right now, right? They may or may not have a job. So I started just like thinking through, like out of everybody that I know, all my relationships, who should I be calling? Now, this would be no different than, 20 years ago when I didn't have a database of people I know. I'd look into the marketplace and says, who's the most highly likely? So I'll give you guys all a tip. Airbnb owners right now would be a great source to call. People who are renting but have secure jobs, like teachers, like police, like military. Those people, their jobs aren't going away. Be a great time for them to upsize and take advantage of the cheap, low interest rates and get a bigger house. So like getting your mind right on who you should be speaking to. Because in every market, somebody else is going to be able to take advantage of. So during the collapse of the market, when the REOs were the game, I was calling everybody I knew that had a lot of cash, see who I can double end. Any of the REO listings I had, and if I didn't, who could I help buy a cash flow property?
So would you say that that's kind of like one of your, maybe not daily rituals, but probably nearly daily rituals is determine who do I need to be talking to today?
Yes. I would say I start big picture, what's going on in the market, and I will do this usually every month, is what's going on now. What's the opportunities, what's the challenges, what's the struggles, and then who makes the most sense to speak into that space.
Okay. So our next topic is actually communication. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And in our conversations before, you've mentioned during this, you kind of have a 2x to 3x idea in your mind when you're dealing with a situation like we're dealing with now. So just elaborate on that a little bit and talk about all the different ways. You've mentioned land, air, and sea, I think is what you said to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a minute.
So, you know, the concept of land, sea, and air is, you know, if I'm gonna communicate with somebody, I got to get them from every different vantage point I can. You know, the as goofy as it sounds, look at a military strategy. If they were gonna go take over, you know, some territory and fight a battle, they're not just gonna send ground troops in; they're gonna hit them from all angles. And so, when I look at it, from a marketing perspective, whether you're marketing to a database, a farm, an area, or a group list, I want to hit them from as many different angles as I possibly can. So what you'll see is a lot of my communication will be in themes. So the things that you'll see me doing on social media, you darn well know that I'm doing that on a one-to-one conversation, whether it be phone calls, whether it be slide broadcast, whether it be texting, whether it be group texting, and whether it be email. And I will package all of those together if I see an opportunity or a theme, so that I can hit as many people in as many different ways as I can with the same clear message. So they're getting it on social media, they're seeing it in my emails, they're seeing it in a text from me, or maybe I'm doing a voicemail broadcast. They'll get it from a lot of different areas. And yes, Fernando, I do use slide broadcast. Yes. It's a very, very good tool, one-to-many, where you can drop a message into, you know, we've done it where we've dropped 500 to 1,000 a day to people we know, and just telling them what's going on in the market and what we need. So the land, sea, and air, you know, like, don't just think of this as linear, one way. How can you leverage that in multiple ways?
Okay. Yeah, I think that KV Core recently added functionality where we can do voice drops through the system. So that's cool, because that's the database that I've converted to and have been using very heavily. So
yeah, well, last week I put a video out of I'm not flexing by showing how many of the properties I've sold during COVID. Well, yesterday an email went out last night, as a matter of fact, to about 2,000 of my past clients with that same video link through KV Core. So they will have seen it on social media. Now they're seeing it there. I left a slide broadcast before the social media post. So that same message has hit this roughly the same few thousand people, all different ways. And their emails are flying in today. Yeah. And Lori just put up the slide broadcast post for the link for anybody that's interested in doing that. And yes, I did understand that KV Core also has it, but we have not tested that yet.
Yeah, cool. Very good. So when you find yourself going through a little bit of a period where it's slower than you know, it's easy when I got a positive mindset, I've got these daily habits, the stuff's all flowing in, but it doesn't always just flow in. What do you do when you find yourself in a little bit of a lull?
So Cody, like that's this whole game. This is not like an occasional lull. Like, this business is getting through the lulls, right? Because here's what I know about me. As soon as I feel like momentum's going, a lull is on its way, because I'm getting a little complacent. I'm like, hey, look at me, I'm doing great. No, keep going. Keep talking to people. Keep doing what you're doing. And I've ridden that roller coaster throughout my career. So like, I've had people say, oh man, you're so positive, you're so motivated. You know, no, bullshit. I wake up with the same doubt, the same worry. Man, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be? I used to have this nightmare come January 2nd every year. January 1st, unfortunately, Cody, I was hungover pretty much all the time, right? But by January 2nd, I'd be like, how the hell am I going to repeat what I did last year? And now I've got more expenses, I got more obligations, I got more commitments. How am I going to do it? What I started realizing is, instead of being consumed with that, I just start noticing, okay, this is a conversation that I'm having inside. What else is true? Well, what else is true? I got to go back to my habits and my routines. If I'm doing the right things, so for example, for the majority of my career, I spent 2.5 to 3 hours a day, every day, Monday through Friday, talking to people religiously on the phone for sale by owners, expireds, just listed, just sold, probates, default, you name it, calling it consistently. I know when I'm doing the habits and routines that my mindset starts to shift because I'm doing the things that I know that'll make me successful and thereby will pull me out of the mental mind funk of will this or will this not work?
Yeah. You know,
And sometimes I got to just call one great past client or one great friend and just check in with them and have a great conversation. And then be like, okay, now I'm ready to call a bunch of people that I don't know. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
well, it's just interesting because somebody that I really respect, somebody that I know and really respect, he talks about the definition of a goal. And he said most of what people call goals are really wishes, because we say, well, I want to sell this many houses in a year. That's really a wish. The goal is I'm going to do these specific things because those specific things are going to turn into the results. So don't make the results the goal, make the activities, the thing that you can actually control is the goal instead of the result of the goal. So yeah, very consistent with.
Well, I hired a trainer about 6 weeks ago, back lifting, and he made a comment the other day. He's like, "Man, you are like so systemized. Like he tells me how to do something, I do it that way every single time until he tells me you got to do it differently, right?" And I start laughing. I said, "Here's what I know. I know there's people smarter than me. I know there's people that are more talented than me. However, I can follow everything that they do will lead to the outcome that I want." The thing that has baffled me, and I coached this game called PLD. I played it and then coached it. A lot of the people in our organization that have been around the PSI community know what PLD is. When I went back and coached it, when I played it, I loved it. It was phenomenal. It was great. When I coached it, it was a struggle. And Teresa Corbett, who puts on the program, I went to her at the end and she's like, "So how was it?" I go, "Coaching was miserable." And she looked at me and she goes, "Of course it would be for somebody like you." And I was like, wait a minute. Are you backhanding me? What does that mean? And she's like, "Well, because you're a doer. Like we tell you what to do, you just go do it." And for some reason, a lot of people in the world struggle with this concept. Like you're told, here's what you should do, but yet you're going to debate inside. You're going to rearrange the paperwork on your desk 15 times before you make one phone call. To me, I don't get that. If I said I'm going to do it, I'm just like, let's get it over with. Like, let's get in action. Let's get it done so I can go do the next thing that I want to do. But apparently that's a little unreasonable.
Yeah, well, but it's really true. I mean, anybody who's coached anybody in anything, I coach baseball, coaching my son's baseball team, man, they know what to do, but getting them to do it, holy cow, that's another thing. All right, so let's go. I'm going to combine these last two subjects here, and we've touched on them already a little bit, but study and learn the reality of the market, sell the known, and this is the part I really want to focus on, while learning and leaning on the unknown.
Yeah, so by study and learn the market, you can speak intelligently and not only about what's occurring, but understanding, trends and where things potentially are headed. When we talk about selling the known and leaning on the unknown, anytime you're working with a client, this is a sales skill, this is a sales philosophy. There's the known. This is what we know today. What do we know today? We know interest rates are low. We know inventory's low. We know these kind of factors. What we don't know is the future of, will there be a massive increase in inventory? Will the interest rates go up? Will jobs be a bigger problem, right? And so anytime I'm working with a buyer or seller, at some point they're going to check up and get a little scared. They're going to get a little fearful. They're going to worry. Like they're worried about what could happen that they make up that could be a problem. So what I want to lean on is what we do know today, and then I'm going to make it uncomfortable for them to choose to wait because of the unknowns of tomorrow. So, for example, I had a seller in the beginning of COVID. We had the perfect house for him where it's a buy-sell. We had that home under contract. We had plenty of time. for us to be able to get their home sold, but they were absolutely freaking out about what could happen and how they would wind up with 2 homes. So I said to him, I go, so let me see if I get this clear. You're not worried about the new home that you're buying. You like that home. It fits everything that you want. They're like, yep, we love it. It's absolutely our dream home. So what are you really worried about? You're worried about owning 2 homes during this time? They're like, yes. I'm like, well, what we do know today is that this home is saleable. There is a lack of inventory. We can get it sold. But what we don't know is if you cancel on this deal and you stay in this deal, will we ever be able to find something like this again that's going to work for you?
The only thing worse than having 2 houses is having no house.
Yeah. Or not being able to get the one you actually want.
Yeah.
Right. So to lean on the unknown of saying, look, yeah, we could cancel all this. You could stay where you are, but you hate your home. You hate the neighborhood, right? There's none of this works for you. So we know that. So if we get rid of this one and we know you're in your dream home, you're happy regardless of what happens in the market. They're like, yeah, absolutely. So we lean on what we know. We like this. And then I paint a picture of being stuck in this miserable home that you hate the neighborhood. The neighbors are terrible, blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So interesting to me that of all the things that you could have said we should talk about managing through a time of crisis, that this is one of the ones that you did, because the unknown is never greater than during these times of crisis. I mean, we can't even plan what's happening in the fall right now. Look at the school district trying to figure out what they're going to do with kids starting in September with school. The unknown is rampant right now. And, most consumers, like most of our clients and most realtors, will use that as a reason not to do something. But it's clear in speaking with you today that you're like, ooh, there's a lot of unknowns out there. How am I going to help people advance in what they're trying to do in real estate?
Yeah, and here's the reality of the world. Like, there's always some level of fear. I'm not manipulating people, and I want to be absolutely clear. I do not manipulate people into things that they shouldn't do. What I do is help them get their own obstacles out of the way on the things that they should do. I have told clients, no, this makes no sense. You need to stay, because it's really not in their best interest. But if it is in their best interest and I see that the unknown and the fears are getting in the way, I make the fear of the unknown, if they don't do this, bigger.
Yeah.
So good. And you're right. This is the perfect time for that.
Well, we've hit 30 of our Power 30. I could go forever with you. I appreciate all of the information you're giving us. And I know that there's a lot more in there for us to discuss, but really appreciate those thoughts. And, to anybody who's watching this live or the replay by video, you have to know that I know Joe practices what he preaches, and I mean, the results speak for themselves. This has been a time where, I've been teaching CE through this whole COVID-19, and I've been talking with lots of agents, and man, the woe is me is out there. Oh, well, it's not as good, but it's because of this. And, it is there. It's tough. Things have changed on us. The environment has changed, but it's clear from your results, you have either adapted or implemented the things you knew always work. And the results have been absolutely fun to watch, and appreciate you sharing with us all these things.
I think you get what you expect pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So we got to just be clear on the expectations.
All right, Joe, thank you. And thanks to everybody for participating. And in a couple more weeks, our next Power 30 is going to be me sharing some financial principles that you should have learned in school. And I know that doesn't sound like a fun subject, but I promise you it's going to be fun.
Well, I'll tell you, you and I have walked through it, and I absolutely is a must attend. And it has definitely strengthened my belief on the strategies that I've been using that just keep doing it. Right.
Yeah. We'll have some fun. We won't get too deep into the numbers, but it'll be a great time. All right.
Thanks, Cody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Joe.
Bye.